Thank you so much, Senator Murkomen, for giving us this opportunity to have this conversation. And as we reflect on the UHURUTO administration, or the Jubilee administration since 2013, we'd want first of all to understand what are the specifics that you'd refer to that worked in the first term of the Jubilee administration and how they contrast in the second term.
In the first term of Jubilee administration, the President and his deputy were focused on the manifesto of Jubilee. Remember, we came in on with a very attractive manifesto under what we called digital government. So a lot of it was successful because of teamwork. There was a lot of teamwork within the government itself. There was a lot of unity within the cabinet. There was a sense of direction. It was very clear that the President was calling the shots, and everybody else was willing to, support him, because there was a very nice camaraderie between him and the deputy, and every Jubilee member was working towards success of our manifesto, because we had a re-election to face in 2017. I also think that the facing ICC was a blessing in disguise. Because of the threat that we were facing with ICC, I think a lot of effort was put forth by the President and his deputy to prove to the world that we were not a pariah state, and that we are an organized government, and we are not a banana republic. And a lot of it also went to our diplomacy. Even though most of the time it was reported to be ICC diplomacy, it both benefits widely, so to speak, right, in terms of us reaching out to as many countries as possible and explaining what Kenya is to Europe, to US, to Asia, to many African countries. I think also our diplomacy went up, even though I know it's still being attributed to ICC within Africa itself, because there was the issue of dealing with ICC and demonstrating that African governments are able to deal with their internal problems, but also then friendships that were built as time went by. Right. And you can see, out of all these relationships, these benefits that now we are reaping about, getting ourselves to Security Council because of the relationships that are built over time. And so for me, really, both internally and externally, the government operated with one mind, with purpose, with focus, with mutual respect between the President and his deputy. And I think that permeated through the other arms of government, which is how we worked, particularly the legislature, how we worked within the legislature. We worked as a team because we're working towards a common cause. The first term also was characterized by many meetings. Party meetings were held more often, party consultation took place more often. There was a lot of mutual respect, and I think a lot of it is attributed to the fact that we are going to face a presidential re-election in 2017.
You greatly describe the very first time, and you said that the President was calling the shots. There are those that feel that actually it was the Deputy President calling the shots because he was available, he was out here meeting people and doing political gatherings here and there. How would you respond to that?
There is nothing the Deputy President did that was not with the blessings of the President. The Deputy President didn't have a formal assigned responsibility to chair any cabinet committee or subcommittee. But practically speaking, the Deputy President was under the delegation of the President, chairing many of the project implementation committees under the under the directions of the President. You will find the Deputy President who is passionate about technical education, was always up and about dealing with matters of TVET, chairing some committees to deal with electricity distribution. You remember our mega project on electricity, issues of land, issues of roads. In fact, I remember he played a major role in the the consultation meetings that were bringing down the cost of doing roads from what used to be 100 and beyond million per kilometer to now about 45 million per kilometer and so forth. But none of those things were done without consultation and direct supervision of the president. In most cases, the deputy president would suggest to the president that can we do something like this, and then the president would say, can you go and consult with the relevant ministry or ministries, and can we bring this report back to the cabinet? And so there was continuous consultation. There was an advantage because whereas the president is a person who does very well on boardroom and working on strategies and working on implementation from a strategic perspective, his deputy was a hands-on man who would easily be sent to go to, you know, Mandera, Wajir, or wherever, any part of the country, to go and see that project. In fact, that's why when the president second time said Kutangatanga, this man who Tangatangas, even, I mean, we took it in jest because of the fact that it was already known in government that it is the president relied on his deputy to go and oversee certain projects in other parts of the country.
Did that make the deputy president too powerful to the extent that he threatened the core of the presidency?
I don't think those who say that the deputy president became more powerful, overshadowed the president, do not understand how power works, because the deputy president was not exercising his own power. It's a constitutional imperative that he exercise responsibilities delegated by the president, and that he is part and parcel of the presidency. And I think the DP was very much aware of that. And I know for sure that in most instances, in almost all instances, there is nowhere the deputy president went in this country and said, I am the one who brought this road, or I'm the one who did this. He always said, the president has sent me to do this, the president has sent me to do this, the president has given me this arambe. I don't know an arambe that I ever attended that the deputy president went across the country in first term that he didn't carry the president's contribution. It was always, my contribution is this one, and this is the president's contribution, and so forth and so forth.
But being a politician, you would know what that would mean. I mean, you're the person who is visible to the ground. Unless
you have personal insecurities, when all these 10 years is over, it will be called Uhuru's administration. It will be called Uhuru's administration. There will be no way you will say Ruto's administration. It's a fact. It's an historical fact. If books will be written 50, 60, 70 years from now, we're talking about Uhuru economics, Uhuru's administration, Uhuru's implementation of SGR, Uhuru's. So a lot of it goes to the president of the day. Mm-hmm. And if you are the president of the day, and there are very zealous partners who want to work so hard in your government, you welcome it, because credit eventually goes to the person that formed the government and the person who is coordinating that cabinet, ultimately. And I think that's where, your question is very important, because that's where the second term problems began, you know. There are two things for us. Let me say this. Why we find ourselves in the situation where we are in. In the first term, around 2015, 2016, the group that now have done what they've done in the second term started thinking at 2017 elections without William Ruto, okay? And even plans came up about how do we age DP out of the show. Those of you who remember our history around that period of time, a lot of conversation was about Uhuru and not Ruto. Remember, it started with Ruto, but by 2015, 2016, there was a lot of focus about talking about Uhuru alone. And one watershed moment was the fact that the president was released by ICC and the deputy was still proceeding and his case proceeded. As soon as that happened, a number of government officers retreated from the diplomatic work that they were doing towards explaining the situation of Kenya in ICC. And a number of us who are in political circles would tell what was happening. And most of the people who now, this cabal that wanted to age out the DP in 2017, started this plan of we want Ruto, we want Uhuru, we don't want Ruto. They are the ones who went to procure actually. You've had something called Cambridge Analytica. Yeah, those are the kind of people who came. They went procured a Cambridge Analytica. They did some fake opinion polls, and they said Uhuru alone. If we sell Uhuru alone, it sells. If we sell with Ruto, we will not win elections in 2017. So they started building a narrative towards removing the DP from his running mate of the president. But now it became so difficult when the reality and the facts and figures came to the table. But before that, they stopped now focusing on the ICC issue. We made a lot of noise. A lot of our meetings took place at the member states party, the ASP, you know, the Assembly of State Parties. Yeah. So when you don't have diplomatic processes going on, then there was a general feeling that we should find ways and means of frustrating the case. Let's put it that way. And hopefully it will contribute to DP's case going on beyond 2017 for us to make a case that the president, now that he doesn't have a case in ICC, needs a deputy who doesn't have a case, or that if the case was to proceed and DP be found culpable, it was going to be the easy way of them to offload the DP out of this partnership with the
president. And the DP was aware of this?
It was not just DP aware of it, we made the president aware of it ourselves. We went and talked to the president about it. And then we organized the prayer rallies. The president himself mobilized all the MPs of Jubilee coalition that time to come for the rally, because initially we were just doing the rally as MPs from Rift Valley. No, just Rift Valley that time. And then the president mobilized everybody, they came. Then from there they sent Amina. Actually we went now to the next ASP with Amina, with Aomamo, and with this other lady who was in Netherlands, who is now at the UNEP. And they did a good job. Why? Because we had put pressure forth. But I began to realize that politics is not as straight as we always think. There is a question mark. There is something being planned, even if you don't believe in. And because that conversation at that time started saying, we need to get someone to replace the DP quietly.
But there were no names.
This is the same group. There were names of people. I mean, I suspect even that group started talking now with Raila Odinga from that period of time. And the main problem...
Who are this group?
There are people who see far. There are people who are now planning 2027. You people are worried about 2022, and they are telling us not to talk about 2022. They're planning 2027, 2032. And so their plan was to have a favorable candidate to them for 2022, and they could see the strength of the DP, his relationship with the people, his political action, his contribution to government was going to be an impediment to them isolating and edging him out for purpose of getting the candidate they want for 2022. Because this is a long story, in 2017, prior to the elections, there was a competition of whether we should run the campaign as UHURUTO or Uhuru alone. You know, all that kind of thing, UHURUTO, Uhuru alone. And the same people were just running the same issue. When the elections was over, there was a feeling, unfortunately, that you all know that what happened, and President called us for a PG. In the PG, all the MPs will tell you, he reprimanded everybody, he said, you will see me, I will come and decampaign you, I'm now going to take charge. Those of you who have been sitting with the DP at the corner there having meetings, you will know me. So that was on a Thursday, and the Supreme Court was going to make a ruling on a Friday. On Friday, we lost the elections. We lost the Supreme Court decision. So it became now embarrassing. We had to meet again, I think Monday or Tuesday, the week after. The president came and apologized. But of course, he had passed his message. We could tell where we were headed. But despite that, the deputy president stuck with him. We went for the re-election.
Let's step back a little bit to, I believe it was a meeting on the 31st of August 2017. where all these MPs were at State House.
Yeah, it's that one.
Yes.
Was that a Monday or Tuesday? I don't remember.
In that meeting that you were all reprimanded, was the Deputy President in attendance?
That's the same meeting that I became the majority leader. So we were all present, and he spoke. He called people names. Actually, the new MPs up to now, yeah, up to now, don't understand why they had to go through that kind of a reprimand.
So in hindsight, what was causing all that?
I think the cabal that was around the president had, for the whole of first term, told him that he didn't look like you were in charge. Okay? That because the DP had friends and going around and working with the MPs and speaking on your behalf and so forth, you're not in charge. Now you need to assert yourself.
Let's focus on the events of August the 31st, 2017, that meeting with members of parliament. And many say that the president came and read the Riot Act. And one wonders what could have informed that, and how was the mood, especially if the deputy president was in attendance and part of the rebuke was about people coalescing with him.
First, you must go back. David Murada had done an interview some months or 1 year before and said, you will know, actually somewhere in early 2017 with one of the local media houses, and said you will know President Uhuru Kenyatta after elections, and that he's going to be tough, he's going to fight this, he's going to do that and all that, you know, those kind of things. And he said so many things. And, you know, it was easy for one to say, to you know, brush off and say, who is David Murada? Because until that point in time, he was operating from the background. Remember the events of ICC had played out. Remember in the elections 2017, approaching the election 2017, a year or so before, the same cabal had come up with this thing of Uhuru alone, we don't want UHURUTO. And so there were bits and pieces of evidence that demonstrated that there was something amiss. Even though, as a matter of fact, the president had not at that stage shown any signs of any difference with his deputy. So this was a struggle. Even around the presidency, there's a competition between those who are saying, we cannot harass the deputy president, we cannot fight the deputy president. He has contributed immensely to the president and the presidency and the party weakening elections. But there was a small group of people who have had a longer history with the president, who every day were, you know, imposing in him that we need to change the way you are working with your deputy. You need to look presidential. I don't know how does presidential look like. You need to be the one who appoints your cabinet on your own. You must be seen to be launching projects alone. You must be seen to be the one in charge. So there was this argument of in charge. So by the time we are going for this meeting, none of us expected, because there was a tension. There was excitement among the newly elected MPs and all of us anyway, but particularly newly elected, and you know there are many, that, oh, finally they are coming to State House. They thank God they are in the winning party. Now we have come to government. They were coming to learn how government works and how it means to work with a government that has won the political party. So they are sitting there and there's a lot of excitement there, but mixed with uncertainty, because a decision of the Supreme Court was impending the next day. So and suddenly, the president is welcomed. Then he goes on a lecture, you know, a serious lecture on how you know, we will see him. He will decampaign members of parliament. Those of you who've been going around with the DP, and you know the DP sitting there, the language was also not very children friendly. Let me put it that way.
What do you mean with that?
He was a bit harsh. He was using very heavy words. And I was even shocked myself, because I've known him all through. I mean, I'd known him by that period of time, worked with him so closely, and you know, he was such a foul mood. Then, the next day, Maraga and team nullified the elections. The week after, 4 days or so, because it was a Monday or Tuesday. Oh, we went back to the old president. The nice guy came and spoke nicely to us, apologized to everybody, said, oh, you know, it seems I used very strong language the other day. I'm sorry. We are one team. Oh, yeah, I've understood why I went this way. Then now, whatever happened, we went for re-election, and the rest is history, as you know.
What of all those accusations was the deputy president guilty of? Is it true that because there are some who have said that during the nominations of the Jubilee Party, the deputy president had a hand on how some elections were conducted, specifically in central Kenya?
The deputy president was not campaigning during the nomination period for anybody. So to say that he had a hand in the nomination of those members of parliament would be far-fetched. Some of the people being accused of having a hand in won the elections even unopposed, like Imani Ichung'wa. Usually that thing is said generally, but nobody is willing to speak about which MP specifically was rigged out, or which senator was specifically rigged out, or which governor was specifically rigged out in all those constituencies.
The argument is, Senator, that some of the members of parliament in central Kenya that now you see moving around with the deputy president is because they felt they owe their allegiance more to the deputy president because of what happened at the nominations.
So you want to tell me that all the others who are not moving with the deputy president came in independently, right? And these ones who are working with the deputy president came in because he helped them.
It is said that a majority of members of parliament who lost would appear to have been coalescing around the president, and only few made it to parliament, the likes of Murkomen.
Murkomen, was he an MP?
He wasn't.
Yeah, so...
No, I'm talking about the nomination, at the point
of nominations. No, I'm just saying, until this gossip of who is coalescing around the president, who is kind of deputy, it was not there in the first term. Never. It wasn't. It was not even there in 2018. That's a gospel of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why was it not there in 2017? Why did it come in 2019? Remember, all of us were being accused that we were close to the deputy. It is the president who presided our election to leadership in the State House, himself.
And I'm told, you can confirm or deny this, that the House leadership list was crafted by Senator Murkomen and Honorable Aden Duale and presented to the president, who made a few changes, but by and large retained the list as it were.
When you say leadership is the leader of majority?
No, the committees and what have you.
I didn't even know, I didn't know I was going to be proposed to be the leader in the first place. Even my own position myself, yeah, I didn't know. Remember, from 2013, I put my whole effort to support Jubilee. After the elections, I wanted to be the whip. And then thereafter, I was told, no, you can't, because Charles Ketera has to be the deputy majority leader. Then I acceded and I became chairman of devolution and did my own other things and supported the party wholeheartedly. So 2016, I was made a deputy majority leader. And then I thought I was going to retain the same position or something after the elections. It was the president's plan to arrange the leadership the way it was and to be endorsed by the PG. Remember, this is the same meeting that the president has come and spoke tough.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be a contradiction to say he was speaking tough, yeah, and at the same time he was being the appointments, the leadership that was suggested to him was by other people.
Let's talk about what were glaring differences between the first and second term. You'd see the president and his deputy walking in tow, matching ties, matching shirts, and coming to announce to the nation the names of men and women they were proposing to be cabinet secretaries. Come 2018 rather, in January, and we hear the president alone announcing a few of the names already in cabinet and some from outside, leaving out several CSs, including Amina Mohammed. Then towards the end of January, we hear him again now coming to give all the other names and appearing that some of those others that were existing had been fired. Where was the deputy president in this, and what was going on at that time?
By the second term now, things were being done differently, as promised, that the president must look presidential. He must not be seen to be working with the deputy. He must take charge. Mother used to tell us even, oh, you know, the president must be as tough. His father used to cane people. He must be ready. He must be a tough guy. So I guess a better answer would be given from the president himself. Why he made a decision to change his working relationship with his deputy, which has gone on.
But did that tell you anything at that time?
I told you we had seen that way before. So this one was just a confirmation of what was already manifested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fast forward to March 9th, 2018, and the president and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga come to the steps of Harambee House, announced to the nation of their handshake. A lot has been said, including the president, but from what you know and from the side of the deputy president, how much information was out to the deputy president and his people?
No, you know, it's true that first of all, Tinga went to see the deputy, because I think by that time he wasn't sure whether the president is really engaging him. So he went to see the deputy and wanted a formal meeting with the deputy president, which the deputy president refused. I mean, told us severally that he refused, and he doesn't regret. If it happened today again, he would still do the same. He told the former prime minister, any conversation regarding our party, meet the president himself. And then, of course, the deputy reported to the president, told the president about Tinka wanting to meet him. Thereafter, finally, the president calls the deputy that Raila has come and met me, and we have struck a deal. And then what is the deal? It is to bring the country together. We want to put together a council of elders that will go around the country to pacify what has happened with the last these elections, and to bring people together. And in fact, the promise then was we will go all of us to address rallies all over the country to tell people that even though we are in different political parties, we want to unite the country together. And as admitted by the president, he told the deputy that is true. They sat down and discussed about it. Of course, as usual, the deputy gave him his advice. I don't know what it entailed. Then he made a final decision. Importantly also, it is true, like the president said, the deputy was told that they sat with the president to suggest what names they are going to propose, because this was not and it's important that that statement comes out. It was made clear that it was a council of elders to bring the country together. We were not putting together a constitutional review commission, which definitely, if it was about constitutional review, the qualification and the competences of a constitutional review process, you know, the kind of people would have to do this. You will have to look for professionals who have the experience and expertise and jurists of a particular years of experience to do the job. But because the job description was to bring the country together, and I'm glad Paul Mwangi did the same when he came for a show in your one of your shows, confirmed that we were not a constitutional review organ. We were just a secretariat of our elders group that were meant to bring the country together. And most of them, that's why there was even no youth. It was just an elders club to bring the country together.
If that information was available, what was the breaking point to the extent that now the deputy president started speaking against the former prime minister, even saying that you chased me from ODM, you're not going to chase me away from Jubilee?
It's because this was the camel story. You know, let me just put my head in. I want to, you know, just to put my head inside the house, then slowly my arm, and then, you know, slowly to the rest of the body. As this thing progressed, it moved from bringing the country together to a constitutional review process, to even at that point in time a suggestion that we should form a government of national unity. There was also the issue of, as a result of this story of the handshake, You remember the whole effort, they wanted to impeach the deputy president. They even met at Serena, issued a statement that was edited. Initially it was saying you should be impeached, you should resign, and then they said you take responsibility. Then the fights went on. They went for anything that looked like now the executive and the president, with president's blessings, because you can't do such things without his blessings, started going for anything that looked like it has a relationship or friendship with the deputy president. Projects in areas that were thought that if it is removed, it would hurt the deputy president, you know, politically. So that's how Bosto Dam in Bomet was not approved. That's how Aurora and Kimwarer was cancelled. That's how a number of people were charged in Kenya Power, Pipeline, anybody who was a Kale. I mean, a number of Kalenjin professionals.
But they said it was because of suspicious transactions.
Let me just, can I complete? Because you will now ask me about the suspicious transaction. Everybody, anybody who looked like was a friend to the deputy president had to be charged. And then, you know, the charges go to court. They never progress. They collapse others, like the Kenya Power ones. So all this effort was intended to weaken the deputy president, because and anybody who was seen, first of all cabinet secretaries were told they should not go for a meeting with the deputy president. The PSS were told they should not go for any meeting. Have you seen any meeting where the deputy president goes with any?
How is that communication made?
It's made directly from the office of the president, the head of public service. So nobody, they were just told if you go there, you lose your job.
Any reasoning that was given there, why they should not be meeting with the deputy president?
There is not. Why should you give reasons? Your appointing authority cannot give you reasons. Once it tells you, don't, that's it. So when these things progressed in that manner, and the president, the deputy president office in Mombasa, which was constructed and supervised by the deputy president, not even deputy president, by the controller, of, the state house controller, because he is the accounting officer of both the president and the deputy president's office. They constructed a complete, they put all the belongings of the deputy president inside, and as he was headed to go to now a function in Mombasa to his office, it was locked and GSU were put there. It is comical that deputy president's personal properties are still locked inside.
I'm struggling with how I can verify what you're saying, because if instructions are given to CSs and PSs not to attend meetings with the deputy president, how exactly was that done, and why would it be done at that point in time?
Okay, let me ask you a different question, because you are not you're not a visitor in Jerusalem. Yeah, you've been around. Does the deputy president meet cabinet ministers and PSS and MDs and senior government officers for government meetings of late? Have you ever reported any for the last 3 years?
I have not had a formal
No, I'm saying as media, not you as some. As media, have you seen any meeting where the deputy president is so you know it is true, it's not happening?
I haven't seen. It doesn't mean that
no,
it doesn't
I'm
happen.
just saying, I don't want you to be defensive. Let's face the fact. We are living in our country, yeah? Mm-hmm. Have you seen the same deputy president doing the same meetings that he did in first term?
Yeah.
So that's a fact. So you think that, as Kiswahili people say, ukiona vyaelea vimeundwa. Do you think it just the deputy president decided he will not have meetings? It's because there's a problem, yeah? And anybody who is seen to be with him may say they're charged, say they're removed from office or he's sacked. I have never seen another situation. Of course, they could have happened in many years ago, but where government officials are terrified to receive a phone call from the deputy president, or terrified even to meet him by accident. I have gone to places where we go with the deputy president and the CS leaves, yeah, because and he looks for you later and says, please, it wasn't Madarao. It's just that I'm not ready to lose my job. So everybody is terrified. Forget about appointed public officers. Have you seen the deputy president hold meetings with as many governors as he used to? You can count the number of governors with it's not even complete 5 fingers, who can meet the deputy president publicly.
So who is pulling those strings? The president?
Maybe the sub chief. I don't know. Let's put it that way, that somebody is pulling the strings and maybe it is somebody small. I don't know.
Somebody small?
Yeah, because if you are a governor, it is known that if you meet the deputy president, EACC will come for you and you'll be charged. Yeah? If you are a CS and PS, you know, if you meet the deputy president, you lose your job. Okay? You are an MD of any of the institutions of government. If you are seen with the deputy president, you're in trouble. You can't even call him on his cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
You have to use a friend to call him or to use a WhatsApp or whatever to call him. Do you think that would happen? Who else can countermand a deputy president?
You tell me.
I don't know.
I'm not in government.
My
I'm not
guess
in
is
politics.
as good as yours. My guess is as good as yours. I don't know. But the reality is that there is Jubilee government has wasted 3 years focusing on fighting the deputy president. In fact, I dare say, most of the policies that we've been running for the last 3 years, most of the policies have been focused on how do we tempt the deputy president more than how can we improve the economy. Businesses, the businesses that lost, the groups that lost their businesses in these small traders across the country, yeah? All those policies of cabs, dealing with them, or using anti-counterfeit and so forth, all of them are focused on one individual, dealing with the deputy president. So all those businesses collapsed, yeah? A number of people have been charged and therefore projects stalled because the idea was to their friendship and support to deputy president, they must be weakened so that in future they don't even give financial support or moral support or campaign for the deputy president. My colleagues, leaders, yeah, we were removed. It's not that it is a secret, and the only reason why we were removed is because we are friends with the deputy president.
But you had also been speaking quite heavily against, first of all, the Building Bridges initiative and some of the actions that are being taken in the fight against corruption.
Did Duale do the same?
He wasn't comfortable with the BBI at first.
So you think the reason why he was removed is because he was not comfortable with BBI?
You tell me.
And I mean, honestly, I don't know. Maybe you have an answer. But I all know that anybody who was associated with the deputy president was removed even from being a vice chair of a committee. For as long as you are a friend to the deputy president,
okay,
you are removed from those positions. And as I've said before, when history now, everything will have collated and, you know, we've closed these stories and we've crossed to 2022 because nobody stays in power for too long. In fact, the president's time is ticking every day. By January, we'll call him the outgoing president. Yeah. So as time goes by and history then later be written, the most defining characteristic and running theme of Uhuru's second term is terming his deputy. In fact, the greatest legacy the president will leave in his second term is the fight with his deputy. That will preoccupy historians, it will preoccupy so many people who write books about even all this thing about constitutional amendment on BBI. All of them are focused on what are the few things we can do so that then we have a campaign, and after we have this campaign of a referendum, we find a way of edging out the deputy and so forth. Everything, and I can tell you that, everything that has been done in this term or not done, which has gone right or wrong, was always themed around president terming his deputy or fighting with his deputy.
How much of blame should then the deputy president take if indeed he was focused on his ambition for 2022?
President Harry Truman used to have a tablet written on his table, small wooden writings, that the buck stops here. If anything goes wrong in Kenya today, it will be that President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration has failed. If something goes successful, it will be that President Uhuru Kenyatta has succeeded.
Did the president say that he was going to lead the campaign for deputy president in the final year of his term?
In one of the meetings he said, let's go and do all these things. I am going to be the one who will be campaigning for the deputy president. I'll be the chief campaigner of the deputy president. So I don't know whether...
So why didn't the deputy president listen to that and wait for the final year?
How do you know that he didn't listen?
Because he continued to do meetings and shaping his ambition for 2022.
How do you know that?
I have heard him say...
How do you know that?
I have heard him say that the government of 2022 will be formed by the hustlers, the local Monanchi.
Correct. So, but is that anything to do with DP?
I mean, he is campaigning for
Is
himself.
there one place you've had DP in any of the meetings for the last 8 years say that Munipigia Kura 2022?
He has said that...
Can you produce one meeting that the DP has done a political rally where it has nothing to do with the Arampes he's been doing since 97? Whether it has nothing to do with empowerment or opening a road project or opening a TTI or opening a CDF project. Just show me one meeting where DP has just set out from his office to go do campaign. One. All the accusers of the deputy president are speaking in a lot of generalities. Not a single person can provide a single evidence of DP holding only one, not one campaign rallies. Yet, we know his competitors who are trying to accuse him holding rallies, which are purely political rallies.
I'm not talking about rallies or what have you.
But what, campaign,
I'm talking about what he says.
The word campaign is defined in law. It's campaigning, you are pursuing a political office. You are selling your manifesto. You are selling your candidature. Show me one incident where DP has held a meeting to sell his candidature or where he has gone to sell a different manifesto than the Jubilee administration implementation, or where he has held a meeting for purpose of preparing for 2022.
So when he says that the government in 2022 will be formed by the hustlers,
yes,
and he tells those that are against him to wait for him in 2022, what does that mean?
In fact, of all people, the DP has always insisted to all these people that Bado Mambo. If you look at all his meetings says, let's first complete the implementation of Jubilee agenda. Those who want to compete with him, let's meet in 2022.
So what has he done in the implementation of the Jubilee agenda in the second term?
What has the president given him to do? The question you should be asking is, what delegated responsibility has the president given the deputy? That's all. And there is no single responsibility delegated to the deputy that he has not done. There has never been a more loyal deputy president than William Ruto. And more focused and more committed. Every time he's been given an assignment by the president, he's done it with utmost commitment and hard work. Where he has not been given, he has kept off to allow the president shine.
But also spoken against what he doesn't believe in being done by his boss, including the Building Bridges initiative.
Give me one. Well, that's not a Jubilee administration agenda.
Senator Murkomen, you know very well that he has criticized the idea behind the Building Bridges initiative. He has also criticized the manner of how the fight against corruption was being handled.
Correct.
And people have raised questions that you are the deputy president and this is an agenda of the Jubilee administration to fight a graft.
It's not an agenda of Jubilee administration to fight corruption. It's a constitutional responsibility of every citizen to fight corruption. And there are institutions that have been given that responsibility. And they are not Jubilee institutions. They are the independent institutions of Kenya. They deserve criticism, just like the president has criticized them as well. Where did this obsession in this country that you cannot criticize certain institutions because it will look like you are criticizing the president?
If indeed,
I haven't found,
if he was
and I want to say this, except the stories that people peddle around, there's no one incident that the deputy president has criticized anything that the president has said. In fact, people say if this is dissatisfied, they should have talked to the president privately. If the president was dissatisfied, why is he criticizing judiciary?
Let's speak about something
it's
that
the
is
double
specific.
speak. You know, the thing here is the double speak. The double speak.
Let's be specific,
Yeah.
specific so that to make progress.
Yeah.
The Arroyo Kimberel dams and the projects that were
Correct.
that have some people
Correct.
in court now. There's a report that came from State House saying on what is supposed to be happening to...
There is no cabinet meeting that has ever discussed Arroyo and Kimberel.
So
Never.
What was that outcome based on?
There were two PSs that were appointed. I'm among the people who criticized them. That were appointed to go and do some audit. And this audit was being done post charges that had been, leveled against the CSS and PSS. That report came back. Those PSS came to Senate, and they say that the purported report is not true. Do you have that report?
It's communication from State House.
Where? There's no communication. There is no communication. There is no report. There is no tabling of that report in any cabinet. It's not tabled in public domain. If you get that report, Sam, I'll be very happy to read it. There is no report in Kenya that says Aurora and Kimwarer was not viable. There is no cancellation. The Italian contractor, his contract is still on. He's just going to get interest above in his contract. The debt we are still going to pay. The project we must implement. If we cancel, we lose about 30 billion. Don't be cheated about Aurora and Kimwarer. It's go and ask them. Call any cabinet secretary and interview. Aurora and Kimwarer is on. Despite the charges in court, the cases have stalled. The DPP has told you, Deputy President, had nothing to do with it. Aurora and Kimwarer is the most hypocritic, the greatest show of hypocrisy when it comes to the purported and pretended fight against corruption. Because Aurora and Kimwarer projects are just like Karumenu projects in Kiambu, they're like the Twake Dam in Makueni, they're like all these other projects that are going on, including the one that we are doing there, the road, Mombasa Road, and the ones on all these bridges we are doing around here and the roundabouts and so forth, they are all the same. The idea, and it must go to the people of Kenya, the idea is that the cabal sat there before elections and after elections and asked themselves, how do we make it impossible for projects that are perceived to be in regions where the Deputy President has a hand or may take political credit? How do we make sure that they do not proceed? In the process, punish the people of Kenya. Because we are paying, you and I, Sam, through our taxes, will pay for that project. In fact, for the delay, we will pay. So if it is true that there was corruption at Aurora and Kimwarer, go and ask them, have they cancelled the contract? Have they cancelled the contract? Have they brought the Italian here to court?
Let's talk about an executive order that came out in 2018 and made Fred Matiang'i the chair of a committee to coordinate the operations of government. And I remember hearing the Deputy President saying that in as much as he's not listed in that executive order, he sits in the presidency and therefore all reports would come to him and the president. How much of that has happened?
I am sure that the reports go to cabinet.
And the Deputy President receives them?
The Deputy President sits in cabinet. The cabinet receives it. The President receives, his boss receives. Why would he receive it?
Senator, you know what I'm asking? Okay, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Since those events, how has, if you would know, the workings of the cabinet changed? Because you said that CSS are not supposed to be meeting.
I don't know. To be very frank and honest, the Deputy President has never formally chaired any committee or cabinet since 2013. So nothing has changed, in my opinion. Cabinet meetings still go on. How they make their decisions since they're there is up to them, I don't know. There is a new way of doing things. And by the way, that new way of doing things, we are yet to see its results. Unless you tell me you know something that I don't know.
So is it working better than it did in the first term?
The main objective of that executive order, number one, was to fast-track the Big Four agenda. So I don't know, Sam, because from where I stand in Parliament, Big Four is stillborn. Yeah? So if that Matiang'i committee has not implemented universal health care, doctors are crying and people are dying, health sector is a problem. Manufacturing, I don't see anything going on. Housing is dead. All these projects that were marketed as Big Four agenda. I think then that executive order number one has failed.
How different would it have been had that executive number one not been there and the Deputy President's hands not folded by those people that you accuse of being behind the changes?
As first time.
What could have you,
the difference is the same. The difference is the same as a comparison between first term and second term. In first term we did, out of the 10,000 roads we promised, we crossed 5,000 to 6,000. out of the electricity connectivity that we did, we connected millions of homes with electricity. In the first term, anything that is called Jubilee, we did it in first term.
The reason I'm asking this, Senator, is because if, for instance, why the housing program partly hasn't succeeded is because of the lack of finances. You remember the battle in court of employees and employers having to make contributions. And so how different would that have been, even if the Deputy President...
As I said, the energy, we've scared away investors in the process of these internal fights of Jubilee. Yeah? We've not given confidence to those investors that will come to our country. They lack the confidence. They don't believe that there is enough political stability for them to build houses to be occupied by people in this Nairobi and in any other town. So a more stable democracy and a more stable government would have given confidence to more investors to come in, because the housing sector was more or less investor-driven. In my opinion, that's the difference between first term and second term. First term looked like there was a political stability in the country that was setting in, that Jubilee knew what they were doing for a longest period, and anyone who was going to gamble on politics would say there is a high likelihood that the next president will be Jubilee, and the high likelihood that the policies will be implemented in the same manner, and therefore I can put my money there. Or even if it's not, they would have seen exactly the other side of the political divide, what is NASA and what is policies and how. But as we speak at the moment, there is a great political confusion in the country that you can't tell exactly the political stability of the nation. This has contributed immensely, and I am told that in most of the investment trips that the president has undertaken and conversations that have taken place in terms of investment conversation, the first question investors are asking, can you guarantee a stable political environment for the next 30 years? And we have been unable to answer, because I hear that they even posed a question that when our negotiator said, yes, Kenya is stable for 50, 100 years. They said, but it's not stable now. The president and his deputy are fighting. So, in essence, that stability is necessary in any country. Yeah? And as I've said also, we've been distracted. We've been distracted from our core mandate, our core objective of trying to achieve certain successes. At the moment, Sam, and I say this with utmost respect, what do you think the president can achieve in 20 months in the Big Four agenda? In fact, in his presidential address, he said, I never promised that Big Four was going to be implemented now. So it's become aspirational.
So how much of that can be furthered in the next 20 months?
I don't know. You know, we've become spectators in our own government. So the best people who would answer this question actually would be the few Jubilee members who still have the ear of the president and the many ODM and NASA characters that are working with the president. Because the second term also must be defined to the losses of Jubilee in second term is the confusion of this handshake and the infiltration of the ODM and so forth in confusing government. So now we have a very confused government there.
You made a reference that some of the investors are saying that the deputy president and the president are fighting. Do you think they're fighting?
The best way to put it is the deputy president is being fought. Okay? And there's an harambe of people who are in government and those who are in opposition to fight the deputy president. And as I said, with utmost respect, our greatest success as Jubilee for the last 3 years is fighting. At the party headquarters, the Secretary General there and the Vice Chair is chasing the Deputy President from there. Meanwhile, on this other side of government, the Deputy President is being... And I with utmost respect to the President, you cannot say that he is oblivious to what's happening. He must be having a hand, he must be supervising, must be superintending over this whole process of DP should not meet cabinet secretaries, the DP should not do this. Do you think that Deputy President belongings could be locked in a house in Mombasa and the President doesn't know? You know? Those are small things to start with. But the whole fight of weakening the office of the Deputy President has been a preoccupation, a very difficult preoccupation of our government for the last 3 years. I don't know any other success story that we can be able to sell. Maybe an Uduma number, which doesn't add anything to anybody's table. So in terms of our core projects, manufacturing, employment, housing, all those issues about universal health care, we have failed spectacularly because we removed our focus from the things that we used to campaign in 2017 and moved them to things that are really not very important, like BBI and these things that are related to fighting the deputy president, weakening the office of the deputy president. Luckily, William Ruto is not going to be deputy president forever. So unfortunately, it's a bad legacy that is being left behind in relation to the office of the deputy president. And
so for the remaining period, do you think there's a chance of making up things and achieve something, or the milk is already spilled?
In terms of development, in terms of the country? No. The remaining period is for politics. Already, forget about that. You want to tell me that in the next 20 months there is something this government will achieve? It's impossible. That is a mirage. This government should be winding up. You know the way you pack your things, yeah, preparing to go home. This government should just complete the roads to a particular level, complete a few things that they have done before, and salvage the country on debt, restructure, think about how this debt will be restructured. Because the biggest preoccupation of the next government is to come and restructure debt, to ensure that there is fight unemployment. The biggest issue will be unemployment and reviving the economy. It's even made worse by the pandemic. So if there is something I would request President Uhuru Kenyatta today, is to focus on coronavirus, to sort out the disease itself and salvage a little of the things that are still salvageable in the economy itself, to take us to 2022. Let another government now come and bring back order. But for the remaining 20 months, it's too late. It's too late. Because in those 20 months, half of it is being taken over by BBI, which is politics. And then another half is the 2022 elections. Do
you think the deputy president will have the chance to ascend to the high office, and what would be his priorities?
Like his competitors, deputy president has equal chance with the other competitors that are running for office. And it will be for the people of Kenya to look at their programs. And no matter who is running for office in this country, no matter their political affiliations, the key number one that the people of Kenya want to hear is economy and to deal with unemployment. Those are two things that are definitely going to be preoccupy the next government for 10 years, not just 5, for 10 years, because the economy is severely battered and unemployment is so high in the country and is getting even higher, and things have not been made better by the corona pandemic. So no matter whether us or our competitors will win elections, we definitely believe and strongly hope that we will form another new set of arrangement and coalition across the country that will give hope to the people of Kenya to deal with the problems that they are facing and forget about these wasted 5 years that have been about fighting left, right, and center, so that we can refocus the country on the things that matter: economy and employment, and of course health. Health is becoming a big issue, both because of the pandemic, but also this pandemic has exposed our soft underbelly in terms of the structure, institutions, human resource on matters health. Yeah, that is the conversation we need to focus. I don't want people to focus too much now anymore about whether Uhuru and Ruto can still wear white shirts and red ties and march together. I think those are sentimental. That's not how to build a country now, the country now going forward. Those are things should have been done from 2018 to establish confidence for purpose of the country withstanding the attacks of serious calamities like the pandemic we are facing. But since that has failed, let's focus on restoration and reclaiming the country back to a democratic space where it is clear who is government, who is opposition. Yeah, let's not have that confusion. Let those who have not made to government put pressure on the government of the day to perform. Part of the reasons why we've performed less is because the president is not under any criticism by anybody. Those who are within his government want to praise him, hoping, because if Murkomen says something, however right it is said, William Ruto ally, and media is the one that brand William Ruto ally, blah, blah, blah. If opposition person says anything now, they're saying the handshake has broken. And you know, it's media also are contributing to it. So everybody is trying to please the president in the hope that he may improve their fortunes to win the elections 2022. Yet we go around here lying to ourselves that the objective is not about 2022. At the moment, my greatest focus is that we must prepare a proper government in for the future that will come and address the very concerns that a common mwananchi is asking.
Senator Murkomen, thank you so much for your time.
Asante sana.
And we wish you
Thank
well.
you. Asante sana.